G'day everyone, you are listening or watching this time the Sydney City Space Slugs coming to you live with another Shatterpoint round from the first season of the TTS League. So it's going to be really exciting. Today we have Morgan up against Aman. This is a top 8 game, so this is a win and progress sort of match. And with me in the commentary box we have Olek, who is also in the elimination rounds. How are you, Olek?
I'm good, thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for joining me today. Yeah, look, we've got a really, really cool game coming up against two, I would say, very good players with some very similar rosters. Now, we haven't loaded them up because this is Premiere format, so after priority and objectives, etc., are all determined, then we get to pick rosters. But did you want to go through maybe their rosters or their predictions or your predictions for rosters as to what we'll see today, Oleg?
Yeah, sure. So, as you said, it's very similar. We've got two sets of Vader, Morgan taking Darth Vader, Jedi Hunter, Jango Fett, and the ARF clones, Mother Talzin, Savage Press, and the Mandalorian Super Commandos, Lord Maul, Obi-Wan Kenobi out of hiding, and Bounty Hunters, and Count Dooku, Barriss Offee, and the Magna Guards. And then a very similar premiere roster for Aman. So we've got Vader, Captain Rex, Magna Guard, then Luminara, Bo-Katan, and the Clan Kreese Mandalorians, followed by Talzin, Obi-Wan, Out of Hiding, the Night Sister Acolytes, then Maul, Jango Fett, and the Mandalorian Super Commandos. So
Hmm.
quite a similar composition.
Okay, cool.
I
Yeah, and so I think it's also worth noting that in the top 16 round, we had Morgan play with Vader and Talzin, and then we also had Aman play with Talzin and Luminara. And given the fact that it's Premiere, we are going to have to sort of vary up those rosters before the final or in anticipation that they make it to the final. So we had a big discussion yesterday or the last few days. I guess the community at large has been as to the best way to build Premier rosters. And just looking at these rosters in front of you here, Oleg, do you think that you can identify like a main roster or a main squad that is being utilized, or do you think it's more anything can go with anything for either of these players?
These two rosters both seem like much more of a flexible pick.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's locked in. Every single squad is very self-contained, and there's yeah, the Vader package. All he really needs is that ARF to set him up, if even that, or Rex in the case of Aman to give him out of activation movement,
Mm-hmm.
and then Aman's list. They are all of the secondaries and supports are either completely independent, like Mandalorians requiring basically setting themselves up for their own abilities, or Obi-Wan who has no synergies outside of his spine trick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Other than the combination of Talzin and Maul in terms of primary pick, this seems like four squads that can be interchanged fairly easily depending on the situation.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, that's great. So I guess the next question that I would have would be, can you identify a strongest roster or a strongest pairing for both of these players? I know, going through the league stats from either the Swiss or the eliminations, Morgan definitely loves his Vader. Do you think that there would be a pick, in your opinion, for the best Vader plus something pairing out of Morgan?
From Morgan, the best Vader pairing? I lean towards Vader Maul. Just
Mm-hmm.
the combination of Vader backed up by ARF means he's bullying anything in front of him, and then giving him Maul gives you probably arguably one of the most powerful objective manipulation pieces, given
Mm-hmm.
Maul's potential triple advance with a pull lets him basically reach any point and remove a character from an objective before killing whatever's left.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very strong. Okay, so that's interesting because the only reason I ask, given that it's Premiere format, you've got to wonder what roster pairing these players are saving to get them into the final.
The
So
finals, yes.
yeah, I wonder what both of them are sticking to. What about Aman? Do you have like a pick for his strongest or best pairing?
Um, I always I always like putting Vader as like the core of a list. He is an excellent build around. Well, he just requires you hit people in melee, but
Yeah, not the
it's
most
still a build
complicated,
around.
right? Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I wonder if we
Uh,
might actually see a Vader Maul mirror match here. That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
it's quite possible, yeah.
Mm,
I would not be surprised.
yeah.
Vader is kind of the primary to beat at the moment in terms of
Attrition,
what do you want to
etc.
include in the list, yeah.
So if
Just
that's the
12,
case,
12 health
yeah,
combined with incredible attack. It's just not
yeah,
ever profitable to activate against him.
yeah, 100%. So if that is the case, then we'll see. Let's just pretend that it's a mirror. We'll see
Hmm.
Morgan's Vader, Django, and Arfs up against Aman's Vader, Rex, and Magnagard. Now, obviously, both of them will be using Vader, but that's a very different outfit in terms of supporting rosters, etc. Do you
Yes.
think you would prefer to play either one of those squads? Would you prefer the Django Arfs or would you prefer the Rex Magnagard?
Into a so traditionally I would almost always say the Django Arf variant, but
Mm-hmm.
knowing the potential of a Vader mirror match makes the Magna Guards a lot more appealing.
Mm-hmm.
Rex a little more so. Just the amount of durability. Oh well, Rex is not that. Uh, Rex is a little squishier than Django, but not having clones that will be instantly destroyed by
Yeah.
Vader or Maul, especially with the fairly tight Force budget, the list would, because Obi-Wan demands a lot. Um, Bounty hunters demand a fair bit of Force if you want them to roll a good quantity of dice.
Yep. 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 I think
So,
I do agree. The Magna Guards seem like an odd choice, but a good choice in this mirror
mhm.
match. Like if
and
we, yeah,
if it would be difficult to set it up, but any potential intercede in this matchup would be huge, denying an activation the optimal target
mm,
when Vader and Maul are running around. Very
yeah,
powerful.
concur. So it looks like we're just having a look at some different maps here, just some ones that the players agree on. I'm not entirely sure what's happened to the actual mat. Are you able to see the mat here, Oleg?
Yep, Matt looks fine to me.
That looks fine to you. Okay, so it doesn't look fine to me, so I might have to jump in and out because of this, but that is fine. Yeah, so I guess while I do that, did you want to just think about? So we've both got in Morgan's, we've got Maul, Kenobi, Bounty Hunters, and in in Aman's Maul squad, we've got Django and the Mandalorian Super Commander. So very very similar. If we both go Vader Maul, we'll both have Vader and Maul, obviously. We'll both have Django and we'll both have Obi-Wan Kenobi out of hiding. So it really comes down to just the supporting.
Uh, if Aman goes, if Aman goes Vader Maul, he won't have Obi-Wan because his Obi-Wan is in his Talson squad.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes.
They'll
Yes.
both have Django and they'll both have Vader and Maul, and I think that'll be the last overlap.
Yeah.
So that the differences would be in the bounty hunters, uh, super commandos, and then the Magnus and the Aerith. So the supports would be all unique.
Yeah. So I'm just going to jump in and out of this game. I'm sorry. So just bear with me while I do so.
All good. In the meantime, they're rolling off for first player.
Perfect. And what squads do we have chosen?
What squads? So for Morgan, we are, as we predicted, going for Vader Maul.
Vader Maul.
So Vader, Django, Aerith, Maul, Obi-Wan, Bounty Hunters. And for
Mm-hmm.
Aman, we've got Talzin Maul. So we're
Thousand
going to
Maul.
have
Okay.
Talzin, Obi-Wan, Acolytes, plus more Django Super Commandos. So not quite
Perfect.
as much overlap as we predicted, but still quite a lot.
Mm. Mm.
Uh,
And in this scenario, like, what do you think? Do you think Shatterpoint is a game of mirror matches, being based on dice results, or do you think player skill and player mistakes will actually have a big component to play?
while list selection is quite an important factor, I think yeah, player skill is quite important. It's
Mm-hmm.
Shatterpoint is all a game about. There's quite a lot of variance in the mission, but the dice are relatively consistent.
Yeah.
So there's a lot you can plan around the individual performance of a unit. So it's yeah, how do you identify when's the right time? Well, you have little control over exact unit activation timing, but it's how you
Mm.
make the most of the immediate situation, and that takes a fair bit of skill. I found
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. I'm just gonna fix
it's
up the names of the colors. You keep going. Sorry.
yeah, it's probably the best way to describe it would be it's a tactical game rather than a strategic game. It's very hard to make a long-term game plan when you don't know how the mission or the activation order will go for you. But each individual activation has a lot of interesting decision making attached on the fly that you
Mm.
need to be able to handle. Okay, now I just
Absolutely.
realized I can't see objectives, assuming they've spawned them in.
They have spawned them in, yeah. So I think the map loaded in a little odd, but if you want to jump in and jump out, or
Yeah,
I can keep you updated,
let's.
up to you.
I'll jump out. That should be
Okay.
fine.
So we both have Obi-Wan Kenobi out of hiding, which would be really interesting, and we've both got Django, which will be really interesting as well. So I wonder what we're going to see. Looks like Aman has placed Talzin, Obi-Wan, and the Night Sister Acolytes, and Morgan has jumped across it with Maul, Obi-Wan, and the Bounty Hunters. So in terms of that, we've got an Obi-Wan face-off, and we've got yeah, so basically on that side, just an Obi-Wan face-off. Now, Obi-Wan out of hiding is quite nice into Maul because he can never be exposed. And in fact, when he does get exposed, he actually heals. Um, in saying that, though, like it's...
You still pulled. That's the big
yeah,
part.
exactly. You're still pulled. Yeah, exactly. So what do you think? Would you say advantage any player just inherently because of a list here, Olek, or not really?
Um, if one side didn't have Obi-Wan, I'd probably say there would be an advantage. But
Mm-hmm.
given Aman went with their Talzin squad rather than their Vader squad, I think we're looking at. I can't see any obvious advantage here. Obi-Wan uh, counters powerful melee threats, and that's what both of them have. Well, Talzin is also a ranged threat, but both of them have brought scary melee lists.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So why would you say advantage to potential Obi-Wan player?
Obi-Wan's potential to essentially zone out a section of the board and just cripple any attack being made in that area or just shut off the majority of melee attacks due to mind trick
Mm,
uh, is really really powerful into and for the reasons we already mentioned, the countering the expose on Maul
yeah.
while not protecting you from the movement, does stop Maul from just yanking you from the other side of the objective into melee range and pretty easily getting the wound off.
Mm. And Obi-Wan Kenobi is quite tanky due to the fact that he can't be exposed, especially, right? Like, he's actually got a really beautiful expertise tree. It's nice and simple.
Yep,
One
one
is
for
one, two
one.
is two, and three is three. There's no complications there. I really like it.
Yeah, it's an excellent defensive tree. 8 health, mind trick. It's it never feels good attacking him.
No, ever, ever. So thanks so much, just to the viewers for joining us. Again, we've got a top eight league happening at the moment. I'll actually remove the Oceanic from the bottom bar because we're no longer in Oceania. We're global now. This is sort of the culmination of all the different brackets. Yeah, this is the top eight. Look, we're fairly interactive, so if you guys do want to jump in and have a chat or just say hello, please feel free to do so. We're always happy to accommodate and interact. Yeah, chuck in the chat who you're supporting. Who do you think's going to win? Is it going to be Darth Vader and Maul, or is it going to be Mother Talzin and Maul? Or is it going to be Django? Or is it going to be Obi-Wan? Everyone's here. Who are you rooting for, Oleg? Or should I say, as a man that's also in the top cut, who would you rather face in the top four?
Uh, the devil you know. Um, I faced Morgan previously in the Oceania League and had quite a good game against him
Mhm.
before, so there's a bit of just bias in being familiar with the guy.
Yeah, of course. So you'd rather Aman
I'd
take the L today, huh?
you can put it like that. I
Okay,
think
so looks
either.
like you go, you go.
I was gonna say it looks like it'd be a fairly similar list I'm facing either way.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so first activation looks like Aman is first player, and we've pulled the Mandalorian Super Commandos. So they've just moved up. Looks like we're doing some range checking at the moment. There is an ingress point right on the right hand side of that building in terms of the player angle. So we might get to take cover and a jump. Looks like we are getting
Yeah,
that.
that looks like we're getting.
Mm. So one
Mhm.
thing that I like to do when I approach roster building, but also play patterns, is sort of identify the character or the unit that I would most like to have in reserve. Is there is that similar? Is that something that rings true to you, Olek, or are you more sort of use your Shatterpoint card when you get it?
I do roughly the same thing in terms of list construction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so
It's
with
usually a primary, but
yeah.
ARFs have introduced an interesting conundrum where they really don't want to activate. They want to
Mm,
sit. Typically, they get wounded fairly early because they're a threat your opponent has to answer,
yeah,
or they're going to just give you too much value over the course of the game. So
definitely.
them sitting in reserve, typically wounded in a key position after they move up, during the first struggle, that's huge because then they
Yeah,
can't be
no, that's
wounded again,
absolutely.
obviously.
Yeah, because you don't want them to get removed at all, for sure. So in this roster, let's say you're Morgan and who's just
Hmm.
pulled Darth Vader, you're going to take the opportunity to reserve the arcs, or would you just sort of, if they get wounded, you'd start taking the opportunity to reserve them?
Yeah, I'd if they were in position, because hmm, I typically play lists that have a lot more added activation movement, so I
Mm,
can throw the ARFs into reserve early and still get them in range 5 of all of the center objectives.
definitely.
This list doesn't seem to offer those options, so I think ARFs would probably get an activation when their card is drawn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, so what we've
In
had
this
is
case.
Vader. Not only is he taking 2 damage to roll extra dice, but he's also spent a force to add 2 damage into the pool, and he's going to go straight at those Mandalorian super commandos. So we might actually get some wounded
Oh, yep,
activations fairly early. And Oleg, you can keep us updated on the dice. I'll make sure that
on the
the
dice. So
the view is nice and
Vader
steady.
has rolled a truly monstrous roll. No fails on 10 dice.
Ooh,
It's 8 hits, a crit, and an expertise. So on
oh my
Vader's
goodness.
very powerful expertise chart, that's going to be 8 hits and 3 crits versus 3 expertise from the Super Commandos, which
Oh
comes
dear.
out to a measly 2 blocks. So Vader is easily going his entire tree here,
Yep.
which is
Okay.
gonna wound the Super Commandos on the spot.
Yeah, and he is on the Dark Rage side, so there is the capacity to do some dashes or some pushes as well. Not very much
Mhm.
in the way of condition straining. Darth Vader is a very simple man that just wants to destroy. So, are you going to try and get that dash into a position where Vader will have a harder time getting um, pulled off, as you would say, by Maul?
Yeah, it's a little hard. Other than the back platform with those crenellations on the wall on Aman's side of the table, there's no lips or railings to these
Mm.
platforms, So no matter where you position yourself, I think it's completely impossible for Maul to not have an angle somewhere. So
Mm,
staying at this back edge is going to give Morgan the best chance to not get shoved due to that wall um, that's right behind Vader. I
yeah,
don't think he can be shoved over it, given how thick it is. And
yeah, correct.
With Maul in front of him, he will need to be pulled the full distance forwards. And given he's roughly in the center, Maul will need to go either towards the middle of the table to pull Vader off to the right hand side, or what's
Mm,
probably going to happen is Maul will go um, to his right side of the table to pull Vader off to the right hand edge of the board in order to get Vader as far away from the action as possible.
mm. Looks
And
like
in
we've
that
also
case, yeah,
had yeah. So we've had Aman take the Night Sisters and didn't have a Mother Talzin activation or a trigger off of Wrath of the Great Mother from the wound on the Super Mandalorian Commandos. It wouldn't have done much. Like it wouldn't have been into attacking Vader range, but there is definitely capacity to get some moves to make her
three
activation a little bit
moves.
more effective. Yeah, in the long run. So you're a
Mm,
man here, Olek. How are you going to go
yep.
about sort of reapproaching the center? Are you going to send your Night Sister acolytes right up, or how are you going to do this?
Um, I think I would still send them up. There is You still need to take objectives no matter what, and
Still need
without
points.
a
Yeah.
lot of access to out of activation movement, given a lack of any separatist or republic movement shenanigans, you need something to contest those early points, so your opponent will
Mm.
just walk onto them first.
Yeah, it's still a
There
points game, right?
does
Absolutely.
Yes, yep, and ironically, ARF and Night Sisters have a very similar um, kind of state where once they're wounded the first time, they want to sit there for as long as possible to keep that coordinated fire exposed at just a single force and stop your opponent from just taking them off the table.
Mm. Definitely.
So
Definitely.
parking them at the back of range 2 is going to give them a lot of range, force Morgan to extend a lot further, while hopefully keeping them safe for at least an activation while taking the point.
Hmm. So we've just had to
But
take cover,
it's
and I'm assuming we're about to see a jump as well. Now, are you going to try and take both of these points with the Night Sisters, or are you just going to take one?
I would personally take 2, but the
Mm.
positioning looks like we're going to be seeing 1.
Yeah, I agree. And I am curious about that. I mean, it is a points game, right? Maybe we are going to now see 2 points being taken. Just because it is a points game, you don't want to concede the first struggle too quickly. So yeah, we are going
Agreed.
to see both points taken here, and I think that is probably the wiser of the two options. Would you agree?
I completely agree. You need to take early points. Yeah, supports activated early tend to be sacrificial pawns to stand on those
Exactly.
center objectives.
Yeah.
The two bodies taking two objectives is huge early when there's no one to contest. And with two hunkers, these Night Sisters should be durable-ish versus range attacks. Their expertise isn't impressive, but the number of dice they'll be rolling here is quite high.
Yeah. If we do get a top heavy activation from Morgan here, though, with a Shatterpoint or a Maul, it's probably going to be yet another support wounded for Aman. Um, what do you usually prefer? Do you prefer top heavy activations with your primaries, or do you usually like sort of gaining board presence and board control with your secondaries
I
and
tend to
supports?
prefer a very bottom-heavy approach. Lead
Mm-hmm.
with the secondaries and supports, finish off the struggle with the primary, and then get a reshuffle very early into the second struggle. Is how I like
Mm.
things to flow. But there's no way to guarantee that without something like Obi-Wan or Luminaria to manipulate and plan ahead.
Yeah, for sure.
So in this case, yeah, I think I would have just moved up with the Acolytes and done something very similar, use their Darkness and Shadows to load up on those hunger tokens.
Mm.
Just
Mm.
hedge my bets to try and make or all
Just gonna try
to
and give
try and give
that.
the Acolytes the best chance to survive in the middle. But
Yeah,
no,
absolutely, absolutely. So just
they don't
if you're
look like they'll
watching
get that
and
chance.
you have a preference, please just let us know if you would like to see sort of what is in the reserve pool as well. I just don't want to be too zoomed out from the table. That's the only concern that I have. I might actually just go back and we can just keep the audience updated as to what's in reserve, which is currently Django. Django is currently in reserve.
Yes.
Excuse me. So we have pulled Maul, and I know Olek, you were saying that you did prefer a very bottom heavy activation, but do you think that's brutally countered by a very top heavy activation by your opponent? Like, is
I
this something that
think
you don't want to see?
in the yeah, I would not want to see this. Because so I, as a predominantly Republic player, lack any primary that can double advance often.
Mm,
Basically, it's just Vader on the Republic side, oh, and Ahsoka too, um, who can double advance up the table, which means you can reach those center line objectives with just their own movement abilities. You don't require any external source.
correct.
Uh, with any of these primaries that can double advance, so Vader, Grievous, Maul, etc., they can just move forward and get onto these center objectives. So in this
Yeah.
case, I think a very heavy activation is going to work just fine, and I assume we'll see another Night Sister or another support wounded here,
Yeah. Keep us
given
updated on the dice
Maul,
results.
yeah, Maul taking the self damage from Vader, taking the self damage for ability usage, rolling a 10 dice attack into 4 defense should get us the wound here,
Probably, and
while
they're exposed as
exposed as
well.
well. Yep.
Mm, yep. So it's pretty brutal. I mean, having your supports wounded, if you're playing ARFs or Night Sisters, you expect them to get wounded fairly early. But having your
But
first two
second activation
activations,
is before they've
yeah,
used their expose ever.
exactly,
Is
that's rough.
rough.
And have they
They
been
won't
wounded,
be in a
Olek?
we are looking at 2 experts. We're looking at yes, we're looking at 5 successes, and they're exposed, so no block. 6 successes, yeah. So Maul went full tree on Sinister Cunning,
Yep,
which will do, I believe, it's 10 damage,
it
and
will.
shoves, repositions, and even more
And
movement. There's a
heals.
jump at the end too. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the heal. I'm all doing Maul things.
Yeah, I mean
So,
he's
yep.
just such a powerhouse of a unit. He's as a predominantly Republic player myself. I often envy and get jealous of Maul players just because the play pattern seems so much fun. The closest I can get is Anakin, who I love, but yeah, it's nothing quite like the displacement, very aggressive,
Mhm.
fast activation of Maul.
Maul does everything you need from a unit. He moves
Yeah.
fast, he hits hard, melee and ranged attack, and he has the option for a triple advance with Sinister Cunning due to the combo of force speed and a step 2 reposition.
Mm,
And that pull both exposes the target and displaces them a significant distance. It's a range 3 pulls up to 2.
two. Yeah.
So he's in that hallowed position where he can displace 2 separate units that are on the one objective, because quite a lot of melee focused primaries, like Vader for instance, if there's 2 separate characters on an objective, there's not much he can do. He can wound one,
Exactly.
and then the other one will keep standing there. Or can deal with both, which
Yeah,
is
he's
always
an
very
Asajj that
powerful.
isn't quite capped out at 6 damage. you know, so yeah,
Yep.
he's fantastic. So as we saw just then, we had a Wrath of the Great Mother trigger from
Yep.
Mother Talzin in response to the wound on the Night Sister acolytes. But unfortunately, due to the fact that she's only range 4, there won't be a strike back. But still a worthy trigger. It is worth noting that Morgan did sort of place himself up against the wall just to make sure that had he been shot, he wouldn't have been able to be displaced off of that objective.
Mhm. I think it's quite possible if that first Wrath trigger hadn't been missed, this would have been a real shot.
Mm. Yep, 100%. 100%. So we've pulled Shatterpoint, and I'll just give you guys an update on board. Down here we've got Django Fett. So Django's maybe thinking about going ahead and trying to displace Vader, but we'll see who Aman ends up activating momentarily. Um, Who would you activate with Shatterpoint? This is sort of on the back end of the discussion that we had earlier. Would you activate Talzin or Maul in this instance, do you think?
There is a potential high rolling Talzin activation. I'd have
Hmm.
to check range to see if it's possible, but it's the potential that Talzin can manipulating hand uh, either Vader or Maul off an objective and then shove the other one off, probably Vader with her ranged attack due to
Hmm.
her high access to shoves. But at the same
Concur.
time, and the potential for coordinated fire exposed to enable those shoves, the issue is Aman lacks bodies on those objectives to recontest immediately.
Hmm.
So I don't think
Still
that would be.
helps. Yeah.
It would, yeah, it'd be a good play. I'm just not sure that's the correct line.
Hmm. It looks like we have chosen Talzin to go with the Shatterpoint, and we did dash Maul. I'll give you guys a top-down view for now, just so we can sort of see who's behind that wall over there. And I'm just going to shuffle over so you can still see the scoreboard as well. And Talzin has just moved out from underneath that gantry. So Maul's probably in a position where he can't be displaced by a ranged attack shove, but he definitely can be manipulating handed.
Yep.
And I wonder if that's the line that Aman takes, noting that he doesn't have much force left for shenanigans, and those shenanigans being Django, Maul. Actually, Maul needs no force, but just Django and Obi-Wan. Would you go force heavy here, or would you just sort of
I
let it
think I'd do
roll?
what Aman is doing, which is suspend the one force. So I think that's a safe assumption. It's the coordinated fire expose. Yeah, Maul is
Mm-hmm.
now exposed.
Yep.
See the result of the attack, and then make decisions from there. Oh wow,
Yeah.
5 expertise on Maul's defense. It's going to be 0
Oh
blocks
dear. And
into I think 2. Yeah, we're seeing full tree on Talzin here.
okay, so
It's
that's
been a
enough to
game of
wound
full
Maul.
trees. That
Yeah.
is enough to wound Maul.
Yeah.
I think it would
A very
tear.
key expertise role there,
Yup,
I would say.
that's huge. Interesting. Every single activation has been a wound thus far.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the tree that we're looking at, the Great Mother tree. Now there is no Wrath of the Great Mother or manipulating hand trigger on this, but it's still very good. We'll still be able to put on plenty of conditions onto Maul and get the wound and a nice reposition for the Great Mother as well, to make sure that she can get where she needs. Now, if you're how are you going to place Great Mother here? Are you going to really try and make sure she doesn't just get smacked back by Maul? Like, what's the worst thing you can do to a Great Mother player?
Engage her in melee with something that isn't wounded to shut down her Wrath of the Great Mother because it's a ranged
Mm-hmm.
attack. So if you're engaged in melee, then you can't make the attack. But given Maul's wounded, other than a Shatterpoint Maul activation here, she's fairly safe for now,
Mm.
being relatively far back in that center objective. So I
Yeah,
think she should be fine, assuming we don't see an early Shatterpoint, because that would
yeah,
absolutely ruin her right now. But I don't
thanks.
see many other options for Aman. If Talzin wasn't on the objective next to Maul, he would be falling fairly far behind in
Yeah,
terms of objectives.
concur. So we've had a Django pull, and Django has been put promptly into reserve, and then we've whacked out with the ARF troopers. So I would say that Morgan's going to want to make sure that he claims as many objectives as possible. So it
Yep.
looks like that ARF trooper that's being measured for now will be plopped into the middle, and then we'll get a
Yes.
second body on the Vader
Onto the.
objective as well.
Mhm.
And what
Yeah,
would
that
you do? Would
seems
you
like a
try and
wise
shoot?
strat.
Put some conditions out? I mean, the ARFs have a really, really nice pin on first success, which would be really detrimental to
Exactly.
Maul here. So is that something that you're
Yep.
going to look
That
at?
that's what I was thinking. If there's any potential range 5 shots, which it seems like that's what Morgan is measuring, um, onto Maul, then that would be excellent. Pinning him is going to halve his effective threat range,
Mm.
unless there's the potential of a saber throw to get the step 2 reposition.
Which there will
Uh,
be. Yep. I mean, I assume.
Even then, that'll reduce Maul's potential damage output significantly. His throw doesn't benefit from sustained by rage, his extra dice for having taken damage ability.
Mm. Yeah,
But it
correct.
looks like Maul's going to be out of range.
It does, unless, yeah. So
Yep.
I wonder what the decision tree there was. So basically, what we've had there, guys, is a move, a defensive maneuver, and then we're doing some attacks. Would you have gone a little bit further with the arfs there to try and get a pin on Maul, or is it just sort of a wasted opportunity here, and you're better just making sure that you can't be taken off that objective in response?
I think it looked like it was difficult to get a shot on Maul. It took a move and a defensive maneuver to get on top of that platform next to Vader.
Mm,
So in that case, without without being able to measure how far from the ingress point you would be able to go, I think it didn't look possible to get a shot on Maul
hmm.
without potentially doing something like advancing around the side of the building to get a
Sure.
shot around the far corner, which would have left the arfs off the objective and out of position, which I don't
Mm,
think is worth the trade off.
that's
Better
fair.
to just get a shot into a suboptimal target and stand on the point.
Yeah, and the ARFs have a really good capacity to try and lay out as many conditions as possible. They have disarms, they have pins, and they have exposures on their tree. So any one of which is quite nice. I'm just going to check, or Olek, can you check if any conditions were applied to Great Mother or any damage?
We are seeing 5 damage, a pin, and an expose on Talzin. That seems like a full tree arf roll.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
on her,
really
Talzin's 7 range defense, she got 5 fails, 2 expertise versus a fantastic arf roll of two hits, a crit, and 3 expertise.
oh dear. Okay, all right. So
Yeah,
next up, we've got. So we've already gone with Talzin. No, this is now actually Talzin's
this is
card.
Talzin. Yep, this is Talzin's card.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to move Maul. Um, this is pretty decent. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to make the ingress point, nor is he going to be able to get up there. But what do you do with Talzin? How are you going to try and maximize this? Shoot the ARF in response?
I think yeah, shoot the ARF would be the line here. Take them out as soon as possible. She can do 7 damage to take out a clone in 4 successes. That's
Mm,
pretty achievable with her fantastic range attack.
definitely.
And there's even the possibility of either here recover shooting or just focus shooting the ARF and staying still on that objective.
Yep. Yep. To try and, but you're trying to maximize points, right? So do you move Talzin off the objective? Actually, with the pin,
Or
she won't be able to make it. So I guess you just focus
exactly.
on
So
damage dealing.
the requirement would be to get the reposition to clear the pin and then walk onto the center objective.
Mm,
That would be the only way to take it with Talzin's own activation, given Maul is wounded and can't retake. But it looks like
definitely.
that's a possibility with the roll that just happened, because we're looking at 2 blocks from the off
Mm.
and 6 total successes from Talzin. Ooh, that might be one short of getting the reposition.
Yeah. Yeah. Potentially. And she's
That
pinned
being
as well,
said,
right?
she is pinned, yes, from
Yeah.
the ARF attack. With these 2 shove or 3 shoves even on her chart, with
Yeah.
3 shoves and 3 follow-ups toward the center objective, a take cover might just put her into the middle as well.
Interesting. And I mean, if you
Because
have the capacity to score points, you take the opportunity, right? Like you would
yes,
leave that
100% of
Maul.
the time.
Yeah.
Yep. Especially given that Talzin is nearly wounded. Um, you want to get as much value out of her activation before she's taken out.
Mm,
Ooh, no,
definitely.
she can clear her own pin here from life drain. The
Yeah.
heal whenever a
Very good point.
Dathomirian deals damage. She should be able to just walk onto the point.
And did we see a? Did we see? Um, I'm so sorry. I've lost my train of thought. Ignore me. Yeah. So yeah, I guess Sorry. Did we see a focus action from Talzin, or did she just roll the base number?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
We got 7. That's her base attack. No focus action was taken.
Yep. All right. So we're just seeing a measure here. Looks like, yeah, now we're thinking about the life drain, I think.
I'd assume so, given it looks like they've gone. Yeah, ARF are wounded, so they went 4 steps down the chart, did 3 shoves, and exactly 7 or
Oh,
two
interesting. Looks
shoves
like
and
the life
7.
drain was actually used to clearly expose.
Suppose. Interesting.
Interesting. Interesting indeed. So this actually
That's
might
yeah.
really. So we need 5 points from Morgan to claim struggle one. And what have we pulled here, Olek, if you don't mind?
Oh, we've pulled the Shatterpoint here, so that's pretty much yeah perfect for Morgan.
Mm.
Gives
So what
him
do you think?
tons of options.
Yeah.
There's a number of options. He needs to score what 1, 2, 3, yeah, 5 as you were saying. So 4 and a wound, if possible, would get him the struggle. That
Which
might be a
feels like
bit
it's
much to
just,
bit
well, just
far
Maul,
out of
right?
reach.
Maul goes,
If
wounds
Maul
Talzin.
can activate wound Talzin and reach. Ooh, Django's still on that back objective. Ah, wound
No, he'll,
Talzin.
yeah, wound Talzin, he'll take control of that, and then that's struggle win.
Is it? Is that 4? Oh yeah, it is 4. Yep.
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
yeah.
That's
So I
true.
think that is the play as well. Looks like Morgan's measuring range, or at least taken all the conditions off of Maul. Yep. So I think that's what we're going for here. Um, do you expose Talzin still? You surely do, right? Just to really make sure that you get the
To
trigger that you
guarantee
need.
it, yeah. I think with the potential to win the struggle this early, that definitely seems like the way to do it.
I
Though
wonder
he
what we're
seems to be
measuring
going
for
for
here.
looking at Obi-Wan mind trick range,
Hmm.
which is interesting.
He could be trying to make sure that that Obi isn't contesting an objective for the second struggle,
Second struggle. Yeah.
but we've moved. Interesting, because maybe Morgan also doesn't want to win the struggle in this activation. Maybe there's that. He's looking at force draining or activation draining Aman a little bit more.
That is quite possible. He's definitely clearly advantaged in this position, so he can
Mm,
afford to just go for resources right now.
yeah. So it looks like we're taking Talzin or exposing Talzin at least. We have measured outside of range 3 of Maul as well. So
I think that's what the measurement from Obi-Wan was to figure out where he could position Maul to pull Talzin to avoid the mind trick.
I see, to prevent to yeah, sorry. He's body blocked Talzin to make sure that she can't be mind tricked. That's actually quite a smart play there, especially when you've got a reposition on your second success.
Yep.
How are we looking for dice?
We've got 6 hits, 2 expertise from Maul, and 3 blocks, 2 fails from Talzin. So
Okay, so
we're looking at 7 versus 3. So this should be 4 steps down Maul's chart.
yeah, so that'll be double heal, the reposition that you need, and a condition of choice as well, which is
Yep.
quite strong.
And more than 5 damage to get the wound.
Yeah,
So that's going to be first struggle, assuming Maul ends up on the objective, which seems to be what Morgan is measuring.
definitely. Thank you, Netty Games, for the follow. Hope you enjoy the content, and if you have any feedback or requests, please put them in the chat or get in touch with us. Otherwise, we're more than happy to keep working on this. And that will be, struggle to Morgan. Okay, so Olek, you are
Mhm.
Aman. You've just lost the first struggle, which a lot of people would say is sort of expected if you are first player. How are you going to come back from this? What are you hoping for in terms of maybe struggle layouts?
Hmm. In terms of struggle layouts, I think I'm looking for this one. A big yeah, this
Let's
is
have a
pretty
look.
much perfect for Aman because
Yeah.
he's still got the back two firmly under his control. Obi-Wan and Django both haven't activated, uh, and Obi-Wan can be just left on that back objective, and no single character can easily shift him,
Mm.
and Django, assuming Django doesn't get exposed, Django is potentially able to tank Maul or Vader.
Yeah, yeah. It is a bit of a
It's a bit
shame
risky.
in that you need to leave those units on the back points and they can't actively contribute to the mid game, I guess. Given the fact that I think how many activations do we have left on either side?
We are 4 activations deep on both sides, and Aman is on his 5th activation as first
Mm-hmm.
player.
Ooh, and it looks like the priority is
Priority at
actually
the back.
Morgan's. Mm,
Unfortunate.
indeed. Yep.
Mhm. Yeah, pulling Maul off the top.
Okay. So that's good because Maul can actually go over there
hmm
and claim that
Yeah, Maul
objective.
can
And
take that point. The
yeah.
bounty hunter. Ooh, no, Django looks like he's not contesting it. Yeah, Maul can just double advance using force speed and pretty easily take that off the bounty hunters for a 4-point swing at the start of the struggle.
Yeah. Do you do that? I mean, a 4 point string, that's huge.
I
That's a
think it
massive.
has to be taken.
Yeah.
He's behind in resources in pretty much every way at the moment.
Mm.
So anything to get scoring, anything to
Okay. We're not
okay,
going for it.
not going for it,
Not
going for
going
the
for it. Looks
Ingress
like we're
point.
going for a Vader wound here.
10 health. It's a lot to deal with.
It is. Are we? I wonder if we're in range for a coordinated fire from the Nine Sisters. Um, I do feel like that
It'll
might be a misplay. I think that a 4 point swing at the start of a struggle is one of those things that's incredibly hard to come back from for the opposing player. And it almost, I don't want to say it does, but it almost feels like it would have guaranteed struggle Aman. Um, but yeah, keep us updated on the dice and what's happening here.
Yep. So we're seeing Maul flip into Dark Rage, or at least Aman is looking at both sides of the card.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he's taking the additional damage just to set up Sustained by Rage to give him that extra dice.
And
Yeah, so a flip
expose.
into Dark Fury, an expose, an attack into Vader. Ooh,
We can have a peek.
thankfully he did get that expose, otherwise that would have been 5 blocks from Vader.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it doesn't
So
look
we're
like
looking,
you're going to be able to wound Vader with that roll. Like a 3 block is beautiful.
yep, 3 blocks on 6 dice while exposed. Fantastic. No
Yeah,
fails in that defense roll at all.
it, yeah. You're expecting to with
Yep.
while you're exposed, but that you'll take anything that you can get. So
Mhm.
how many successes is that total?
Maul is going to get 7, so he'll get 4 through with an extra damage, I believe.
Four and a
Yeah,
damage is. Let's have a look on the tree.
it's not going to be 10, I can tell you that.
Yeah. So what do you
Mm.
do?
I don't like this flip into Dark Rage at all.
No.
I'm of the opinion that Dark Rage has very little utility. Almost all of Maul's power comes from uh, just
Sinister Cunning.
Sinister Cunning being good at everything.
It's a beautiful combat tree, Sinister Cunning. I
It's
absolutely love it.
fantastic. And its only weakness is less dice, which Sustained by Rage self mitigates.
Exactly. Yeah, I
And it looks
almost
like,
exclusively play Maul in Sinister Cunning here.
agreed, I'll start him in Dark Rage purely for the potential that he could activate and need the 3rd step or the 4th step damage.
Mm.
But most of the time, he'll just live through the entire game on Sinister Cunning. But it looks like Morgan's earlier positioning with Vader, that thick wall behind him to prevent him being shoved, is paying off. A lot of
Mm.
shoves being mentioned, and he can't quite get over it.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if he can sort of sit on the top of it either. I mean, technically,
No,
all the
it's
object
too it's
you go
too thin to
too
rest on
thin.
top of.
Yeah, because all the objects in Shatterpoint should arguably flat or be flat to
Or at
allow you to sort
least
of sit on them.
not on a steep gradient, at least.
Yeah, yeah, not on a steep
Because
gradient, exactly.
as long as it's not at a different elevation, it can be at a little bit of an angle because you can still
Mm.
rest on it.
But yeah, the width of the object is, I think, too thin.
Oh, that looks very suspect. That Vader positioning there.
It looks like it's overhanging. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. Yep. The shadow's very clearly over the edge.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So I think
I think this
had
is
yeah, I think had Aman gone for the bounty hunters, which he could have made with a move and a force speed and a pull, etc. That would have almost sealed the deal on a on the struggle here for Aman. But we've decided to try and do
agreed.
some attrition play, which I think relying on dice, even in a game such as Shatterpoint, where the dice are fairly consistent, can be very
Hmm.
detrimental
That
sometimes.
12 health on Vader. It's
Yeah,
even
it's a lot
taking
to
the
chew
self
through.
damage. Yeah, it's hard to profitably attack him at all.
Yeah. So let's say you're Morgan now. Are you going to sort of wait for struggle 3 and set yourself up, or are you going to start putting your foot on the throttle and try and win in two struggles?
I think I'd go for the two struggle win here. Vader and Maul are both in fantastic positions. They're both
Mm,
they are gonna take at least three. They're four activations away. Because they've both already activated and the Shatterpoint is gone.
yeah.
But
So
they can both basically just walk forward and take their respective objectives. In terms of
yeah.
Obi-Wan, Maul can pull him off the objective. He's on full health, so the heal from Greater Purpose doesn't apply or isn't really relevant to Obi-Wan.
Mm,
And Vader should be able to take out Django with an attack into. Oh, actually, Vader is strained, so that drastically limits his options with only 2 health remaining.
yeah. So that would actually kill him or wound him,
Hmm.
I should say.
Yep,
So we have
and
pulled the
being
bounty
on only 2.
hunters.
Yep,
We have pulled the bounty hunters, so that's going to limit, I guess, as you were saying. While Vader and Maul are in excellent positions, they are about, you said, 4 activations away. Um,
4, yeah, including
yeah,
this one.
so it's really going to limit the capacity for Morgan to sort of play this struggle because I
Hmm.
don't think Django or the bounties can make it. Neither can Obi. I mean, he could physically get there, but he wouldn't be able to displace anyone off of those objectives. So how does that change your opinion? Do you think you just play for struggle 3? Um,
Yeah, that would be. Hmm, yeah, I think depending on how the score goes, I would position units to be set up for 3,
hmm,
but try if any opportunity arises to go for the back objectives, I would take them. Given
yeah,
it's only a single unit on each, realistically, Obi-Wan, it's probably not getting the objective taken off him unless it's Maul, because
yeah,
Maul can pull him out of the way first. But other than that, Django, while durable, is not invulnerable.
hmm,
And yeah, if and when Vader comes back up, that's not a hard Fury advance bonk.
concur,
Just and that
concur.
as soon as Morgan takes one of those back objectives, if he doesn't lose the struggle before he can reactivate his primaries, I think he has a solid chance to win the second one.
Hmm. So we've seen an interesting play here. When we've revealed the Bounty Hunter's order card, we've triggered Payday, and now we're shooting at Maul with a coordinated fire expose from the wounded ARF troopers. So how do the dice look here, Olek?
How the dice look? So we've got 4 hits, 2 crits for the bounty hunters versus a fail, 2 blocks, and 3 expertise from Maul. So due to that expose, we are looking at only 2 blocks on Maul.
So
So
nearly
it's
full
going to give
tree.
us a 6 down to 4. Yeah, nearly full tree.
That's very
It's
good.
going to give everything except the expose.
Yeah. So we've got a pin and 8 damage now on Maul, which I would say
Huge.
significantly hampers his combat effectiveness. He can't now take all 3 damage to trigger his force abilities, which is pretty rough.
Yep. And the pin means is incentivized to use the force speed. So
Yep.
he's probably going to be without a pull on his next activation.
Mm. Mm. So, what have we got for the priority? It looks like it's remaining on the Django one.
Yep. And
And
Django's coming out of reserve.
okay, interesting. So, what do you do with Django? How are you going to make the most of this? I have a feeling maybe wounding Vader would be the right thing to
That
do to get some
I would
heals
not
and
be
some.
surprised.
Mm,
Given the bounty hunters are moved, there is nothing contesting that back objective. So there's the
mm,
possibility for an advance, shoot, get the step 2 jump, then jetpack onto Morgan's home objective.
yeah,
And
yeah,
in that case, uh, we'd see I'm looking to get paid and a 4-point swing occur.
which would be great. It
That would be
doesn't look like
great.
we're angling for that play at the moment, and instead it looks like we might be trying to heal up Maul with the "I'm going to get paid" heals, which is decent, absolutely.
Yeah,
But I think
can't fault
Aman
that.
maybe Aman's just sort of accepting the fact that he's going to win this struggle, given the deployment map at the moment.
Yeah, it is heavily favored his way, but
Mm,
I'm just worried that as soon as the deck refreshes, that he's just in a lot worse position as soon as those primaries come back online.
yeah, definitely, definitely. We're just looking at the scoreboard. Oh, okay, so it looks like we actually didn't have an attack from Django, interestingly. And instead, we've just.
He's looking to get the activation skip
Oh, okay, I see. Yep.
because Morgan has no. Oh no, he does have out of activation movement on Obi-Wan. He could get out of range here with Obi-Wan's tactical ability run because wounded characters still engage. And because it's heal, then reposition, Vader could clear the strain and then move
Yeah,
outside of 3 of Django. It would drastically limit Obi-Wan's options. He would basically just be advance moving, but it would basically counter Aman's entire activation just then, which yeah, it looks like
yeah.
that's what's going to happen.
That is absolutely savage. I think the best thing for Aman to do there would have been to try and wound.
Hmm.
Would have been to try and wound Vader there. That is, yeah, that's brutal.
Huge. Yep.
Looks like we still will get the wound on Vader though, because of the movement from the from the Mandalorian Super Commandos, the No Mercy.
No
So after
mercy,
a
yeah.
unit, yeah, advanced or dashes, if they're not there
But it
anymore,
denies Django.
it denies Django an activation shutdown, which is, I guess, massive. Um, so yeah,
I hadn't considered no mercy. That's a good point, but still, yeah, prevents an activation skip and prevents Django getting the refresh and the heals.
which I think as a Vader player, you're much happier about.
Agreed. And
Yeah,
puts so many bodies on this point.
which is yeah, and the center point, I guess, for the viewers, the center point has about a 65% chance of being active in struggle 3. So locking it down is usually in your favor.
Yeah, I always try and make sure that going into the third, the center is well contested. It just
I think
leaves
yeah,
you in the best position to expand into the rest of the board.
definitely, definitely. So what are we going to see now? Looks like we've not yet pulled Django. Well, we've not yet pulled another unit, I
Another
guess.
card. It would be so we'd be seeing another activation from Aman, given that
Yep,
Obi-Wan just went. So we're waiting on his last card, which would
it'll have to be
be
Obi.
yep,
Yep.
interesting.
How do you position Obi for struggle 3 if you know where your opponent's Obi is going? It's going to be a very Obi heavy struggle 3, I think.
Yes, very interesting that he's been basically the last card in both players' decks, which is really not where he wants to be.
Mm-mm. No,
Um,
he wants to
which
go
has
quite early.
mhm, really favored Morgan there with all of his heavy hitting primaries going first and then second.
Definitely. And do you think, now that Morgan's last card will be Django, do you think that you send Django after Obi just to sort of displace him a little bit? How are you gonna how are you gonna think about that?
Django with that step 2 strain is fantastic into Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because straining Obi-Wan means that Mind Trick's going to cost him, nearly half his health pool.
Yeah,
Just anything
definitely.
that makes Mind Trick a worse proposition for your opponent is great. And that, yeah, it looks like we've just seen a move take cover on Obi-Wan on that back objective.
Mm,
Just not terrible. Um, Prevents him getting easily shifted. And his one weakness is a support double shooting him, because he can't Mind Trick both attacks, given the reactive once per turn limitation.
yeah. I wonder if we put Django in range 3 of Aman's Maul to shut down his activation, noting that he has a pin and therefore no way to get
Yeah, even
Maul
Talzin
out
couldn't
of.
save him.
Exactly. I think that might be a really good play. Counter a really hard hitting activation, such as Maul with Django's not so fast. There we go. We are measuring for it now. I think that
Yeah,
is the play.
agreed. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
that'll be
Morgan has an
safe.
out. Aman, other than someone healing Maul before Maul's activation, I don't see an out here for the
Mm.
activation skip.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite unlikely that we'll be able to. Oh, looks like we're just going to shoot him instead, which is fair.
Could be shooting Django right next to him.
Could be. Yeah,
6 defense. Django has a hunker, so I think it might be Django.
interesting. I feel like we put the tag on Maul. Um,
We'll have to see where.
I think I'd prefer to shoot Django here, to be honest, just to try and threaten the I'm not so fast on both characters.
I agree. I agree. But it looks like a shot in the mole.
Okay. Or we could just put him on. Maybe Morgan's just looking to do 2 damage, which could also be a thing. And it looks like, yeah, Morgan's stopped the tree,
Earlier.
leaving Maul on 1 left, which is really going to make sure that he's almost guaranteed to end his activation.
Yep. Then
I
it
like
looks
that
like we're
play.
getting a capture wire.
Yep,
May as well. Force refresh is just about to happen at the end of Django's activation.
exactly. Exactly. So we've got a pin on Django and a pin on Maul. So they're really going to be hampered in terms of their ability to contribute to struggle number 3. And we've got a activation. So are you going to try and not win struggle 3? Try and not win in this activation if you're Aman, or you just going to do it? And the only reason I ask that is it would force Morgan to spend resources to stay in the fight, so to speak, or to just to contribute to the struggle. Um, what do you reckon?
I'm I'm torn because the attrition game plan doesn't look to be working out for him.
Mm,
Um, and taking more damage before starting the third struggle doesn't seem great.
yeah, concur.
But the Super Commanders, yeah, there is last activation. No, first
Um,
activation. Sorry.
First activation. Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think Aman just needs to win the struggle. I can't see
and
this
end it.
going well for him if it drags out even further.
Yeah, 100%. So we've had a force spend. So it looks like we did not so fast the Mandalorians.
Given it was start of activation, that would make sense.
Did we? I can't see any rolls there. Maybe they cleared the dice tray, but I can't see any damage on the Mandalorians either.
Likewise, I
Yeah.
don't know what was
So,
spent for.
mm,
No, there's no payday on, or there's no reason to payday in your opponent's turn. So
yeah, it's okay. We won't. I'm sure there's a reason that the force has been spent. So as a man, are you going to try and wound Django here? What's your priority?
wounding him would force the cost to go up. A far
Mm,
enough shove. Oh no, that wall again. It's in an odd
yeah.
position.
Yeah, you could potentially push Django towards the ladder and into the center, But you probably don't really want Django in the center, but you do want him away from Maul. So that's
This is probably going to wound him. We just saw Django roll 5 fails on defense and get
ooh,
5 hits and 2 expertise from the Super Commandos. So that's going
oh
to
dear.
be full tree, yeah. With is it 9 Oh well, with the second one, it should almost certainly be enough to wound him.
Yeah,
So yeah, first
yeah, I
attack, put him to
suppose
2 health left with a strain. A single success will get him.
a single crit.
Yep.
He's blocked 4, which is pretty good.
Oh, he seems to be punching the ARF with the second attack.
Okay,
I think he's leaving his own not so fast up
yeah. What do you
with
think about
having a
that?
Django off. I'm torn. Um, there's the potential for Obi-Wan to do the same trick and use run.
Hmm.
Uh, it would trigger No Mercy, but I think Django would die to No Mercy, same as Vader would.
Yep, yep. And I guess the strain on him, they're thinking potentially, maybe Aman's thinking, not so fast will wound him, but he'll get to trigger. Um, I believe he'd get to trigger. My client is getting impatient first, or I'm just looking to get paid to get the heals. I'm not entirely sure on the timing specifics there.
Uh, I
Anywho, Anywho, so you're Morgan. You've just lost struggle 2, but you're in a pretty good spot for struggle 3. You don't control back middle. You don't control the top sort of central objective where the Super Mandalorians are either, but you do control center and right, and you've got full control over objectives as well. So, what do you reckon? How are you gonna? What map are you hoping for here?
anything central. The central lines or the offset center lines, so straight down the middle or straight across the middle, or 2 into the middle and then 1 offset to the left or right. That would be
Hmm.
my, yeah, anything except the one that was just pulled.
Anything except that
This,
one?
yep, this is the
Okay.
one I always try and avoid. Um,
Let me
as
have a
a
look.
prolific mace player, anything that forces me to spread out like this, it's a pain.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can get back. You can get. You already have right, but you aren't able to get top left.
This
But
seems
you've also got
fine.
Django there.
Yeah, Django's there, though in a precarious position. And we
Definitely.
get a Vader, opening Vader again.
I mean, that's fantastic.
That is fantastic.
You could
He
also
can
just
just
reserve it,
true.
or you could just go on
Uh,
a and wound
ooh,
Django,
just
take the
out.
objective. Yeah, because Aman actually controls none of these objectives off the bat,
Yes.
which is
Mhm.
pretty brutal.
Yep. Um,
And Django doesn't have any damage on him, but Vader could. Oh, I mean, he doesn't have an expose. There's no way for him to be exposed, so
yep.
it's
And
dangerous.
ARF are just out of range. It does
They
rely on
are.
a good roll here.
But even if you don't wound him, you can still get him into a position where he will be not so fasted by Django, and
Yep.
you can
They're
also
both
make
in
sure
range
that
3 to each other.
exactly, and then you can just take the objective off of Aman here because he doesn't actually have anyone on range 2 of the objective. So even just getting him
Exactly.
close is strong enough. So I think this is a good play either way, even if you don't get what you want.
And I think with enough shoves early in the tree, Vader can still get onto the objective. Shove
Mm,
Django into Maul to stop his position, and then make 2 shoves around the edge of Django to put Vader on.
yeah, and
But
we've
it
we've
looks
seen
like
the Dark Fury spend, so we've actually still got enough movement here to get on there without the
get on
shoves.
there. True. And it's going to be a pretty good roll. That's 3 hits, a crit, and 5 expertise versus 2 blocks and expertise. So we're going to see 4 from Django, which will block all the hits, but it's 3 crits and extra damage. So it'll be 3 steps down the tree with 3 extra damage, which is close. I think it's just short though.
It's one short. Yeah,
That's not bad though, given the not so fast is already set up.
exactly. I think that's actually really good for Morgan here, and he can just sort of move on over to the objective and take it, and then yeah. How many dice were rolled, if you don't mind me asking?
10. Vader did take the self damage.
Okay, but he didn't focus, yeah, so he can just
No.
move
Yep.
here.
He's got an action left. Vader's Fury.
Yep,
Yeah, Vader's Fury, attack, and then one action left to just advance, given he's still engaged.
yep. I think the Django not so fast plays here are going to be absolutely savage for Aman. Unfortunately, those setups are
Yeah,
are
in
incredibly
trying to
strong.
set up that Vader not so fast, he opened himself up.
To
Um,
two not so fasts, yeah.
yep.
Who have we
Django
pulled?
can't be just any
So we've pulled
potential to
Maul.
force the activation skip.
Yeah. So
And he
he's
goes
pulled
right
Maul
into
and he's put him
reserve.
right into reserve. And if we pull Django, no, it's Shatterpoint. And we can't activate either Django or Maul with the Shatterpoint. So I feel like we're going to go Talzin.
That seems like a safe bet. There is
Mm,
the no, Maul is pinned. Can't even get him
yeah.
out.
But that's what I mean. You have to sort of hope that you use the move on Maul now to clear the pin, and then your next card is Talzin to get him out.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bind.
It is a bind. It is a bind. And it's not a fantastic draw for Aman either. Or, roll for Aman, I guess I could say. He's looking at only getting 1 point here. And we're not. I'm not sure. Maybe he's not actually going to use Talzin. He could be looking at Obi-Wan.
Quite possibly. I just don't see. ARF is still wounded. Obi-Wan with his double advance could definitely reach that back objective,
Mm,
and that would be a strong setup play. But can he afford to make a 1 point setup play
exactly.
this late? It would leave
Yeah.
Morgan scarily close to just winning the struggle outright.
It would, wouldn't it? Yeah. The thing is, if you set up Obi on that objective, it means you're not getting Maul or Django out of not so fast range, which is really savage.
It's where Django's. You could get Django out by wounding him using Obi-Wan to run him, heal the strain, move him, trigger No Mercy, and wound Django to avoid the activation skip.
Mm,
Do what Morgan did to Aman earlier with Vader.
yeah.
That's definitely a line, but at the same time, it suffers from the same issue. Obi-Wan takes a single objective. No, he can't take the objective if he runs Django.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
It's pretty bad. It's not a great. I mean, I feel like it has to be Talzin, but that even then, maybe not. Maybe it has to be the Night Sisters actually, and you go with one to take the objective off of Maul because you've got Talzin there. Um, oh, but
yep.
Talzin's
If
wounded,
she's
isn't
in
she? So you
range,
can't do that.
yep. Yeah. All that early powerful attacks are paying off.
mm, exactly.
Ironically,
Yeah, I
I
feel
don't
like you've.
think after those first three activations that Morgan wounded anything. He's been deliberately leaving them all low for Django.
Yeah, I mean Django's such a powerhouse when he gets the opportunity to be, right? I mean,
Yep.
but this is the thing. Like,
It's
I feel like you don't, unless it's almost a guarantee, you don't try and leave a character wounded or not wounded just so you've got an opportunity for Django to not so fast them. Like we had multiple opportunities for Aman to wound these characters, but he hasn't done so in order to
mhm.
potentially get a play for Django. And it's sort of trapped him here. Like now it's all flipped on,
Mm.
you know, flipped back on him.
Yes, I think underestimating the Obi-Wan tactical ability, being able to use on anyone that's engaged,
Mm,
missing that Vader activation skip um, because of that, and not going for the wound when he could, I think was a mistake.
yeah, it might have actually won him struggle number two a lot quicker, and then he could have been in a much better position as well.
Agreed. Looks like we're going with Talzin. She's been flipped to injured.
Okay, Yeah. So how do you make the most of this? Does Towson just go full Monty into Maul here and try and wound him?
I think so. I'm not without the priority being Maul is yeah, him is measuring that up, but Maul's pinned.
Yeah. So they're going to clear the
So yeah,
pin. So they
clearer the
have
pinned.
used they have used shadows on Maul to clear the pin. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the only way to potentially free Maul. Even then, they need another activation to heal him, preferably, or to get
Yeah.
Django out of range.
100%. And already having Maul, yeah, you're going to have to basically hope that your order deck is favorable to you or leans kindly on you, and you pull Talzin next or something that is not Django. Yeah,
Mhm.
which is a pretty
Well,
good chance.
Maul
You've
is
got a
in
pretty good chance of that.
reserve. Maul's in
Exactly.
reserve, so it's not awful.
But I
It's
feel like skipping one activation here is just monstrous.
Yep. I think if the activation skip happens, it's game.
Hmm. Hmm.
Or on Aman, I think Morgan could sustain it with his point lead at the moment.
Yeah, correct. And he's also got the capacity to put things into reserve as well. He's got nothing in that slot at the moment.
Yep,
Yeah.
that is an option.
Okay, so after a lot of deliberation there, looks like we've gone for Mother Talzin, and we're just thinking. I believe we might have some dice rolls here, maybe.
6 defense pulled up, so it looks like Maul's going to get punched.
Yeah,
We seem to
and
be,
we might be seeing a coordinated fire exposed there as well.
I believe he was on 4 force, so yeah, it looks like it.
Yep. Okay, so we've exposed Maul, and we're going to try and do as much damage as possible. Talzin can do 10 or 11 on her tree, I believe. Let's have a look. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so if she maxes out her tree, she can wound Maul.
Ooh, that's not bad. 5 successes versus 1 block to do the expose.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So
So
won't quite
5,
be
that's
enough.
full tree on Talzin.
Oh,
So I
sorry,
think,
5 after the blocks. Yep.
yep, 5 after blocks. Oh no, 4 after blocks.
Yeah,
Damn, I think that's short then.
I agree. Yep. So I think yeah, she does 7 damage if she gets 4 successes, which means you're going to have to spend manipulating hand to get Maul off of this. Oh, 4
Because
successes
yeah.
with double or triple shove. Let's have a look.
But I think his base, look at where he's in that corner. He can't be shoved off because Talzin didn't move.
Yeah, interesting.
Talzin would have had
Should have
to
moved
have,
there, I think.
yeah, I would have cleared the pin. If I was going to do a melee attack, I would have moved to the right, Maul,
Yeah, because
because
you can't
his base is
actually.
going to clip that corner, so he can't be shoved in that
Yeah,
direction.
you can't be perpendicular. Like you can't sort of go outside of that. You have to be perfectly perpendicular um, to the
Yep.
template here. Yes. Yeah, I would have moved out of engagement range and shot him, and then that would have been a lot better at pushing him. And then, worst comes to worst, you can always manipulating hand him. But you still could do it. Like you could shove him a little bit, follow up with Towson, because you get 3 shoves here, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Depending on which choices he picks, yeah, 3 shoves.
yeah, exactly. So there's still the potential for him to maneuver himself um, to get to get where he needs to be. But it looks like we're not following up, or maybe we'll do the follow ups after.
No,
So
I think
technically,
with this
guys, you
first
are meant
shove,
to.
yeah, you follow up after each individual shove. But I think with this,
Exactly.
given the 3 shoves, they've gotten Maul far enough around the corner that he can now be shoved freely.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I don't
I think
know. I
no is
feel like the
bait.
follow up would have been would have really cemented it. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
guys, just
no, I
in terms
agree.
of anyone that's just joined in, we've got 1 struggle each. You can see the struggles 1 cards up the top, left, and right, and then the struggle currently is 3 spaces towards Morgan, and it is currently Mother Towson's activation. Um, yeah. So I do feel like you had to follow up there to get a better angle. And if you had followed up, I mean, it's almost guaranteed that you get to push Maul off there, right? Um,
Agreed.
yeah. You still could do it for that third shove, assuming you decide to go that route in the tree. Um,
Which I think is a must
it is. So you've pushed him
because, yeah.
again. Please follow up and do it. Not entirely sure. We might be
Because
looking at,
if
yeah,
she doesn't take this point, that's pretty much game. Because he'll
I think
walk
so.
onto his back point, score 4, and then just requires a momentum to win.
Yep. Yep. Which could be anyone.
Yep. Yeah, they're all injured or fresh, other than the Night Sisters. There's
Yeah.
plenty of targets.
So it looks like
Spending
we're
the
getting the
force on the
manipulating
hand.
hand trigger, which didn't need to be done. It could have been a follow up and then a push. Um, but yeah, I don't know if you agree with me, Olek. I think that's
I
a
completely
good
agree.
misplay. Yeah.
This could have been avoided very easily.
hmm hmm Okay, so we will get the objective there, but that's only one. Um, and
Yeah.
then we need what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points for Morgan. So it's not possible, but it's looking very likely that Morgan takes this struggle. Um,
Yes.
so what do we got? We're rolling for the priority
Ooh.
now, and I'm
So
just
it's
showing you
Talzin's
guys what gets
objective.
pulled. Okay, Towson's objective, and we're pulling Maul
Maul. Wow. Vader Maul again.
again. Yeah, it's absolutely savage. So you take that and you try and wound Towson, right?
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and there's no force for mind trick either. So
Yep. Though she's well out of range of it. Oh,
uh,
actually, no.
no,
Sorry, I'm
she's
looking
right.
at the wrong Obi-Wan. Yep,
Yeah,
looking at the wrong Obi-Wan.
and that would have been that's another reason why had Aman followed up with the shoves and pushed him off, that he would have had enough
Then
force
Mind
to do the
Trick.
mind trick. Exactly.
Talzin would be safe there. Yep,
Yeah, she would be physically safe, but probably still in a position where Maul can
pull her out.
remove her off the objective. Potentially, it's not a given actually.
Yeah, it's a
Just given the way
weird
she is.
angle. He would need to get into it. Need to change position at least. But here, he's gonna get in a range of Obi-Wan, get in a range of the objective,
Mm,
and then solid chance to just take Talzin out of action here.
exactly. Yeah.
Though
Exactly.
he's on too few health to use Vader's self-damage or use any of his abilities. So it is just going to be a 9 dice attack into her
Oh, he didn't actually
defense.
get wounded there. Interesting. Oh, of
Yep.
course, we talked about that. Yeah, we
But
talked
that's a
about that.
pretty. It's what, 2 blocks out of Talzin versus 2 hits, 2 crits, and 4 expertise. Just going to get. Yeah, it's going to be 4 crits. It's going to be 4 crits because all the hits will get blocked and 2 extra
Yep.
damage. So
Okay.
5,
So not enough
6.
to wound Towson, but it
No.
will have the shoves to get her off the objective,
Yep.
and take
Yeah.
it back.
All he needed was the 1 success to knock her backwards off the objective.
Exactly. Yeah. Maul is just so consistent on Sinister Cunning. I think it's
Yep.
one of my favorite combat trees, actually.
I completely agree. I think the only thing that comes close for me is Jedi Master on Mace.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. He's a great tree. Great tree.
Mhm.
So we're repositioning into range of Obi-Wan here, of Morgan's Obi-Wan, just to make sure that he has a hard time getting removed or damaged off of that point, which is a good shout. Now, you've scored 3 as Morgan. It's not over for Aman. What are you hoping for here? What cards are you hoping to grab and draw, and what are you going to try and how are you going to exert board presence basically
As Aman or as Morgan?
as Aman?
As Aman, oh, that's a tough one. I feel like the Night Sisters need to go, or the Super Commandos already went the struggle, didn't they? They were first
They were first
activation.
up.
Yeah, and
Oh no,
Shatterpoint's
sorry, they were the
gone.
last activation. No, they were the first. Sorry. Yep. Yep.
Okay, well, we did just pull Night Sisters. but their potential to grab 2 objectives here is what I think is necessary. And there we go. If the Night Sisters can get over to the back objective, they have a step 2 shove, I believe. Yeah,
Mm,
they have basically a clone combat tree.
they do.
Um,
You're gonna have to try and get
because
Maul.
or Vader.
Yeah, but Vader is healthy and Maul's on three left.
Oh, true, 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 true. But you'd need to double shoot Maul because Mind Trick exists.
Exactly. Yeah, but I think that's
Uh,
still what you have to do, right? And you have to get out of engagement range with the bounty hunters and Obi-Wan to
and
do it.
Obi-Wan. Yep.
I'm not sure if it's possible.
I think one can jump to the Ingress. Probably both can use their jump ability to jump to the Ingress point, shoot down into Maul. Then,
Hmm.
with their second action, one walks onto the back objective, and one
And
walks
one
onto
takes Maul.
Maul's objective. That
Yeah.
would give you the movement, the out of engagement range, and the shots.
Yeah. And just FYI to the
Actually,
viewers, the ingress point
there's no
is
force, so it's not
this one
possible.
here. Ah, and
And
the
they're
force
pinned.
bites. Oh
Yep.
no.
That
Okay.
manipulating hand
Yeah.
expense has been crippling
Well, they won't be pinned anymore just because
of
they'll heal
their
up.
flipping injured.
Yeah, exactly. But that is yeah. So
With
basically,
only a single move action, they're already engaged, or at least one is.
mm,
Because of Mind Trick, one can go into melee with multiple characters to not lose their entire activation, and then the
mm,
other one could shoot Maul.
yeah, I guess you have an
But that
opportunity to move and then take cover, but oh, I don't know if you're gonna make it.
Mhm. Yeah, that
So
lack
yeah,
of
just if
force.
anyone's joined in now, basically the play that Olek was just talking about was had Mother Talzin had 3 shoves on her combat tree and unfortunately didn't choose to follow up on any of them, which meant that she couldn't get a better angle to push Maul off a specific objective, forcing Aman to spend 3 force on a manipulating hand, which is unfortunately meant that Aman has no force to play with now for subsequent activations. So that's what we're talking about, and it's really coming back to bite him. So the play was a potential jump with, assuming unlimited force, a potential jump with the Dathomirian Night Sisters, and they could have essentially wounded Maul and taken 2 objectives to sort of keep Aman in the game. But this looks like it'll only be a score of 1 for Aman here, which actually might just mean that Morgan wins it in the next activation.
Yes, that seems very likely.
Do they have a reposition on their combat tree? Let's bring it up.
Let's have a look.
No,
They do
they
not.
don't.
They have a jump at step 4.
Yeah.
Just, yeah, not enough with the way they moved. So, gonna get 1 success through into Maul, it looks like.
Mm-hmm. Which would be 1 damage and a
Which,
pin.
yep. Which does
Yeah.
mean the other sister only needs 1 success to finish him off.
Yeah, but I think Morgan can just mind trick that.
Yep.
Yeah, and then that essentially means that no points are scored by Aman except for 1 momentum, and then it's game for Morgan.
There we go. There's the mind
Yep,
trick.
there's the mind trick. Yeah. And that means the following activation is game to Morgan, no matter what, no matter how the cookie crumbles. Oh, I guess if the priority objective falls on the back point again, Morgan does need to complete an activation. Yep. So who are we shooting now? Do you think are probably the bounties or?
Bounty Hunters or Obi-Wan? I'm not sure which it'll be. But
Mhm.
probably Hunters. They are the hardest one to hit. But it looks like no damage was dealt. Yeah,
Okay.
1 single hit rolled on 4 dice.
Yeah. Deary me. Deary me. Yeah.
Yep.
So looks like we've
Obi-Wan
drawn
moves
Obi,
back.
moves and claims the victory.
Yep.
Okay. So that was a great game. Thank you so much, Olek, for doing that with me. I think that's a really good. I do feel like watching that back by either player, not sorry, watching that back will identify some mistakes that could have been overcome. I think on Aman's part, some really good opportunities to have big swings there or prevent particular plays. But all in all, like a really good game, a really good showing of some very similar yet very different play styles in terms of what cards and units were brought. What do you think, Oleg? Anything
I agree
specific?
completely. There's It was very interesting to watch because, as you said, these are very similar lists, but with each a unique twist. Basically, what's a mall package of some sort, and then comparing the supplementary half, either Talzin or Vader, and how those performed compared to one another. Quite interesting to see.
Mm, exactly. Um, yeah. Yeah. So unfortunately, look, Morgan and Aman just said that they're both open for a post-commentary interview, but unfortunately, I can't link the audio yet. So we'll have to wait maybe for the top four or final game before we do a post-match interview. But once again, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks to both players for agreeing to be on stream, and thank you, Oleg. I hope you decide to join me in another commentary box. It was really good and fun.
Yeah, my
And
pleasure.
thanks to everyone who checked it out. All the best, and we will try and bring you some more top four games. And if you missed out on the opportunity to watch this live, I'll upload it on YouTube straight after this game, basically. So, yeah, thanks once again. You've been watching Sydney City Space Slugs. And if you want to stick around, I think, Oleg, you've got your top 8 game in about
Yes,
half an hour.
mine is coming soon. Yep, should
Yeah,
be starting in the hour.
amazing. Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much again, guys. And we will see you soon. And thanks again, Oleg.